Hello, it's Tessa, one of the news editors here at Manx Radio. Back with you for another episode of Newscast, and today we're talking organised crime and how police on the island have unpicked another web of criminality. Operation Achilles has resulted in the longest prison sentence ever handed down for drugs offences in the Manx courts. That 20-year sentence went to Kyle Brian Molyneux, or Kyle Brian Johnson, as he's also known. A 27-year-old man, formerly from Andreas, who police say was the ringleader of an organised crime group operating between here and Merseyside. So what was Operation Achilles? Well, in short, a 3-year project which the Isle of Man Constabulary's Drug and Crime Unit started in February 2020 and which culminated in April this year. It's seen officers seize heroin, cocaine and cannabis with a street value of almost £100,000, as well as £50,000 in criminal cash. 12 people from the island and the United Kingdom have been jailed for their part in the drug trafficking operation, the longest sentence reserved for Molyneux, who it transpired was linked to them all.
It was noted that Mr. Molyneux had stated that any penalty was worth the money. Well, that penalty now is 20 years in prison.
That's Detective Inspector Jamie Tomlinson, who heads up the Drug and Crime Unit. You'll hear more from him shortly. But first to Douglas Courthouse and the sentencing of the so-called ringleader of the OCG, who'd pleaded guilty to 5 offences. Molyneux's advocate told the court his client was not the Pablo Escobar of the Isle of Man. Despite his protests, sentencing Deemster Graham Cook said it was clear that Molyneux was involved lock, stock and barrel in the importation and supply of drugs to and on the Isle of Man. He did this, the court heard, despite being on remand at the Isle of Man prison on a separate drug importation charge for much of the period concerned. This, the prosecutor said, meant he was about as high as you can get in the chain of command on the island. He was, the court heard, organising the distribution network, facilitating collection of the proceeds of crime, as well as enforcements for drug debts, predominantly from his cell in the prison, where he was using illicit SIM cards to contact the outside world. Detective Inspector Tomlinson told me it was clear from the painstaking investigations that Molyneux was the common denominator.
I'm Jamie Tomlinson. I'm the Detective Inspector from the Drug and Organised Crime Unit. I'm very pleased with the sentence. I think it reflects the seriousness of his criminal lifestyle, if you like, the people that were involved and the drugs that were brought to the island.
Now, this is all part of Operation Achilles. We've seen a number of people jailed through the operation, through the work of the police. Kyle Molyneux, was what the police have described as the ringleader. Just tell me a little bit more about how you formed that opinion. What was he doing, perhaps, that put him higher up the tree?
Well, we'll start back in February of 2020 when it was just pre-COVID, which is when the start of our importations were seized by us, if you like. And it was from that date and then during COVID and thereafter that once we either followed the evidence or, our investigations took us in a certain direction and we focused on other individuals and we subsequently arrested those and put those to court. Effectively, once we joined the dots, he was the common denominator in it all, and he was coming back to and linked to all of these subjects.
And this was significant drug importation. We are talking Class A, Class B drugs being brought to the Isle of Man and criminal cash. So this was an operation that touched all of the areas of criminality, I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously heroin is the worst of the drugs. So we had heroin coming in, we had high purity cocaine, we had very, very different methods. We had cocaine in microwave ovens. We had heroin that had been dug into a beach, effectively. We had a burger van that was full of cash that was going back to the UK. So lots of different methods, which was their way of trying to evade detection.
And you mentioned that he was the common denominator, and I know that a lot of phone analysis was undertaken as part of this operation, and it all all seem to link back to him. Now, what was significant was that for a large portion of this time, he was actually behind bars himself.
Yeah, that's correct. He was on remand for other drug-related offences. And then once he was in his prison cell, he managed to get hold of illicit SIM cards and communicate with all his criminal associates and effectively organise the importations and the collection of monies and so on and so forth.
Now, some people may be concerned that that can actually go on in our prison. You think of a prison as somewhere that has high security, that is a very sort of sterile place. He clearly was able to flout the rules. Do you think people should be concerned about that?
I think it's quite well known, isn't it, that prisoners are resourceful people. And when you're talking illicit SIM cards, they are very, very small, so they are easy to pass. Unfortunately, I think it's just one of those things that happened. He managed to get hold of them and he used them for his criminality.
His advocate said in court that he wasn't the Pablo Escobar of the Isle of Man, but did accept that he played a leading role in this. What do you think it is about him that made him so influential, if you like? He clearly was able to get people to do what he wanted them to do.
I think it's well known. I think it came out in the facts that we can show that he intimidated people. He enforced drug debts. He was an individual that portrayed himself that could not be messed with. And I think it was because of that, it allowed him to live the lifestyle that he wanted until he was actually captured.
Do you think a sentence like this, obviously it's 20 years, it's the longest we believe that's been handed down for drugs offences, do you think it will act as a deterrent?
It should do, but those that are involved in drug importations and drug supply are greedy and they want to make money, so they will take the risks. If they want to take those risks, they are seriously looking at long prison time.
And obviously the work doesn't stop for your officers. Is this part of the daily way of life for your officers? Is every day it is trying to dismantle networks of organised crime like this one?
Yes, it's big business, without a doubt. We know it's taking place. We know where our threats are coming from. The Chief Constable's aware of that, and we will keep doing our utmost to thwart their methods.
Do you think there's anything that could stop it completely?
It's a really difficult question. As long as there is money to be made, then criminals will try and make money.
We know, and we've heard before, that there are young people who are pulled into this murky underworld, that they are being exploited on the Isle of Man. What would be your message, perhaps, for either the young people or their parents?
Nothing's free in life, is it? So if you're given swanky trainers or mobile phones or money, then people are going to want something for it. When it comes to the exploitation of the young, it's family members or parents to look out for the warning signs and to speak to people about it, because we're aware that it goes on. And exploitation does happen in our young people, unfortunately, by our drugs importers and suppliers.
In response to the sentencing, Chief Constable Russ Foster says it sends out a warning to all those involved in organised criminality. He says the Isle of Man Constabulary will continue to do everything it possibly can to make the island a hostile environment for criminal networks to thrive. He says he's absolutely committed to investing resources to tackle serious and organised criminality on the island now and in the future.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.